The golden sun sank over the rolling Texas plains, painting the sky in strokes of amber and rose as dust danced around the wheels of a creaking pickup truck. Out beyond the fences and dry creek beds, a woman named Grace Miller trudged home from town, her shoes worn, her hands cracked, her spirit tired but not yet broken. She was a widow, the kind who'd learned to smile even when the world had taken nearly everything. Her husband, Tom, had died 3 years ago in a cattle accident, leaving her with a small wooden house, a few chickens, and debts that seemed to grow taller than the wheat fields she once dreamed of owning. But Grace had something stronger than wealth. She had compassion. Every evening after cleaning homes for a few dollars, she stopped by an old ranch on the outskirts of town, the Weston Ranch, one of the oldest in the county. The ranch belonged to Eli Weston, a man who had left years ago and made a name for himself in Dallas as a millionaire cattle investor. But Eli's aging parents still lived there, too old to manage the fields, too proud to ask for help. Grace had been helping them quietly for months, bringing homemade soup, sweeping the porch, and feeding their chickens before walking home through the whispering prairie wind. She never asked for a dime. She never told anyone. To her, kindness was not a currency to spend, it was a duty of the heart. That evening, as Grace knelt by the porch feeding the old Weston's chickens, she didn't notice the black pickup that had just turned onto the gravel road. Inside it sat a man in a crisp shirt, cowboy hat resting on the dash, his face shadowed by the fading light. Eli Weston, the millionaire cowboy himself, returning home after years of being away. He had built an empire, cattle ranches, land investments, rodeo sponsorships, but tonight, none of that mattered. His mother had called him, her voice weak and trembling, saying simply, "Son, we're not doing so well out here. Your father can barely walk. Come home if you can." He hadn't known what to expect, but he surely didn't expect to see a strange woman, her hair tucked under a faded scarf, kneeling in the dirt, feeding his family's chickens like she belonged there. Eli slowed the truck, watching her. She moved with a kind of gentleness he hadn't seen in years, careful, deliberate, and warm. He parked, stepped out, boots crunching the gravel. The sound startled her, and she looked up, brushing dust from her skirt, her eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, I didn't mean to trespass," she stammered. "I was just helping your parents with supper and the hens." Eli tilted his hat, curiosity and caution mixing in his gaze. "Helping? You always feed strangers chickens?" he asked, his voice deep and smooth but edged with city sharpness. Grace's lips trembled into a faint smile. "No, sir. Only when those strangers can't lift the feed sacks anymore." Inside the house, Eli's mother called out, her frail voice breaking through the screen door. "Eli, is that you, boy?" He turned, stunned for a moment, before rushing inside. Grace followed quietly, setting the feed bucket down. The reunion was tender. His mother wrapped her arms around him, tears wetting her son's dusty shirt, while his father sat in an old rocker, his hands shaking but his eyes bright with pride. After a few moments of catching up, Eli looked back toward the kitchen where Grace was quietly washing dishes that weren't hers, humming under her breath like she'd done it 100 times before. "Ma," Eli whispered, "who's she?" His mother smiled gently. "That's Grace Miller, the widow from town. She's been helping us these past few months. Brings food, checks on us, even fixed that old chicken coop you never got around to." Something in Eli's chest tightened. Millionaire or not, he felt a sting of shame. His parents, his responsibility, had been cared for by a woman who had nothing but still gave everything. That night, after dinner, he walked her out to her path home. The stars stretched wide over the land, and the crickets sang softly in the tall grass. "You didn't have to do all that for them," he said. Grace looked at him, her voice steady. "I know. But sometimes we don't help people because they deserve it, we help because it's right." Her answer struck him like a quiet thunder. He'd spent years chasing deals and money, thinking success was measured in acres and dollars. But this woman, this widow in worn shoes, carried a wealth he couldn't buy. Over the next few days, Eli stayed to help his parents settle affairs on the ranch. Each morning, Grace would arrive, apron tied, hands full of biscuits or stew. Eli started working alongside her, repairing fences and roofs he hadn't touched since boyhood. They spoke little at first, but something unspoken grew between them, a slow understanding, a kind of healing. He watched the way she spoke to his parents,